Com o Jon Ronson, autor do livro Humilhado, como a era da internet mudou o julgamento público. Eu acho que todo mundo já passou por essa experiência de ou ser humilhado ou participar, ou to take part in shaming, participar de uma dessas ondas que acontecem nas redes sociais, em que alguém é humilhado, aquele cala-boca, que a pessoa fica se sentindo péssima. E ele escreveu um livro sobre isso. O Jon fez uma investigação sobre isso. O que é você ser humilhado através das redes sociais? Como é que você enfrenta isso? Por que isso acontece? Vamos fazer a entrevista em inglês, we do it in English, mas às vezes a gente vai parar e falar em português, o Jon também vai falar com vocês e a gente vai rolando. Ele é muito conhecido no Brasil, tem vários livros publicados. Tem um que virou filme, Os Homens que Encaravam Cabras, com George Clooney, The Man Who Stare at Goats.
We're Jedi. We don't fight with guns, we fight with our mind.
Holy.
E O Teste do Psicopata, também um livro famoso. O Jon é muito conhecido no Brasil. You're very well known in Brazil, I'm telling them.
The people I met were mangled. They talked to me about depression and anxiety and insomnia and suicidal thoughts. One woman I talked to, who also told a joke that landed badly, she stayed home for a year and a half.
So, Jon, to begin with, we have a translation problem because shaming is a word that anybody who speaks English knows exactly what you're talking about. In Portuguese, we don't have one word for that, but we can say fazer o outro passar vergonha. It's a long way of saying shaming.
Yes.
It's and in French and Spanish it's the same thing. There's not one word. Faire honte à quelqu'un in French. To make somebody feel bad, feel ashamed.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's kind of an aggressive act. To feel humiliated is like, you know, is oh my God, I've done something wrong. I feel awful. But to be shamed is like a punishment.
Yeah,
I think maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, and you talk about how this is like a public, not say flogging or public, like you mentioned the pillory.
Yeah.
We have a word, pelourinho.
It kind of
it's like.
Yeah, well, it kind of is like a public flogging. And in fact, I went up to Massachusetts to look at the archives, the Massachusetts
Na época da
archives.
caça às bruxas.
Yeah, and I found these...
17th century, século XVII.
Yeah, and I found these documents of these, like a woman who was caught in bed with a man who wasn't her husband, and she was going to be publicly flogged. And I found a document where she was begging the judge to change his mind, but not about the flogging. She was okay with the flogging. But what she didn't want was for it to happen in public. It's the public nature of the punishment that this woman in the 17th century considered so horrific. And now the internet, their public punishments are huge. They're back. We are doing something every day on social media that was considered horrific in the 17th century.
And a crucial word that you use is we, because some people say, oh, the trolls do that, bad people do that, oh, the evil people do that, but we don't do it, right?
Right.
Not true.
No, exactly. I always feel I always get annoyed when it's stories about trolls. Because what are trolls? Trolls are kind of misogynistic idiots. They're
somebody in a dungeon who is there the whole day, just
exactly crazy, nasty clowns.
The psychopaths.
Yes, psychopaths, or maybe just very depressed people, but people in the corners of society.
Yeah.
But
not us. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But the people who really do the damage are us, are nice, liberal people like us. Can I give you an example? So I met a woman for my book called Justine Sacco.
I remember that story.
Yeah, this is a particularly interesting, complicated example.
We can go into that.
Okay.
We have time.
Okay, so Justine, she's about to get on a plane here in New York. in fact just works a couple of blocks up from where we're sitting now.
She's a PR for a big company,
Yeah,
right?
but she's a private individual. She has 170 Twitter followers. She's not a famous person. Anyway, she's about to get on a plane to Cape Town, and she tweets, "Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, just kidding, I'm white."
She made a joke.
Yeah, a joke. She gets on a plane, turns off her phone, and while she sleeps...
It's like 12 hours, maybe?
Yeah, 12 hours. Wakes up at the other end of Cape Town, turns on her phone, and a text comes up straight away from her friend saying, "I am so sorry to see what's happening to you." And so she's baffled. And then another text from her best friend, "You need to call me right now. You are the worldwide #1 trending topic on Twitter." So while she slept, her tweet went around the world. And Twitter decided that she was representative of the evils of white privilege, and so she must be fired from her job.
And she was fired.
She was fired. 100,000 people tweeted about how disgusting she was. A lot of companies were making good money that night. You know, Justine's name was normally Googled 40 times a month. That month, between December the 20th and the end of December, her name was Googled 1,220,000 times. And one internet economist told me that that meant that Google made somewhere between $120,000 and $468,000 from Justine's annihilation. Whereas those of us doing the actual shaming, we got nothing. We were like unpaid shaming interns for Google. What was so hilarious to nice people like us who destroyed Justine was that she was asleep on a plane and oblivious to her destruction. One tweet I read summed it up: "We are about to watch this Justine Sacco bitch get fired in real time before she even knows she's being fired."
No livro do Jon, tem outros casos de pessoas como a Justine que foram humilhadas e perderam o emprego, perderam a vida. E eu quero saber dele por que ele foi o único jornalista que conseguiu entrevistar essas pessoas.
Firstly, it helped that I'm quite well known. Like Justine, for instance, had read one or two of my books, so that helped. It didn't necessarily mean she trusted me. But also, with people like Justine, everybody thought that she was a monster. Like everyone. And the people who didn't think she was a monster were too afraid to say so, because then everybody might turn on them too. For instance, the night of Justine's annihilation on Twitter, somebody I know, a feminist writer in London called Helen Lewis, she tweeted, "I'm not sure that Justine Sacco deserves the punishment that she's getting while she's asleep on a plane." And lots of people just tweeted her, "Well, you're just a privileged bitch too." So she shut up because it was so frightening that night. So I went to Justine and I said, "I think what's happened to you is terrible. I think this is monstrous. What's going on here? You're like a store being looted in a riot." I said that to her, and so that's another reason why I think she agreed to talk to me. But the other reason I think actually is that nobody was talking about this stuff. It's like people were getting destroyed on social media and nobody was questioning it. Until my book came out, really nobody was questioning it. Everybody just thought it was fine. Justine Sacco got what she deserved, and then everybody just moved on with their lives. They didn't even wonder whether Justine, before they knew, Justine had gone home and killed herself. And in fact, people do kill themselves, but nobody was thinking about it because we want to destroy people and not think about it.
People who have been shamed and lost their reputation. This new thing in Europe, the right to be forgotten, can that be a solution for that? Or at least a remedy?
Yeah. What's happening in America? So in Europe, if your transgression is deemed to be no longer relevant or untrue, I mean, if what people are saying about you on websites is shown to be untrue or no longer relevant, you can petition Google to have it removed. With somebody like Justine, that's so hard though, because she was everywhere. I mean, it was just everywhere. If you've been shamed, though, you can employ a company. There are companies like Reputation.com.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that in your book. I had never heard of that. So they can clean up your reputation just by flooding the internet with other things about you.
Other things about you, positive things about you. I hooked up this woman who'd been publicly shamed with Reputation.com.
Lindsay Stone.
Lindsay Stone, yeah. She had made this joke where she posed in front of a terrible joke. I mean, all the jokes are terrible jokes.
But this was really...
yeah. I mean...
She took a picture in the Arlington Cemetery that was offensive, seen as offensive to veterans, right?
Exactly.
To all the military.
To
the
military. Yeah. She was kind of making a stupid joke about her side. But anyway, so I hooked her up with Reputation.com, and they said the way to get rid of this bad reputation of Lindsay is to make Lindsay innocuous. So they wrote lots of blogs on behalf of Lindsay about how much she loved cats.
Visiting Disneyland.
Yeah, Disneyland, ice cream, her favourite types of ice cream, how much she's looking forward to Lady Gaga's new jazz album. I thought that was kind of terrible.
It didn't work, right? Because I googled her name and it's still there.
It's still there. It didn't work. It'll work. The other thing about Reputation.com is that they charge so much money. They charge hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
there's no guarantee that you're going to be cleaned up.
No, exactly. And the only people who can afford it are like multi-millionaires. So once again, the multi-millionaires win. And also the real sad thing about Lindsay Stone is that, the way, what that teaches us is that the way to survive on social media is to be bland or silent. Like, if you don't want to get shamed, just talk about cats and ice cream. We're creating this world that's so afraid of saying anything that might get you destroyed that people are just, they're just talking about cats and ice cream.
Agora eu vou fazer uma confissão ao John. Now I'm going to make a confession.
Okay.
I'm really scared of something happening to me and losing my reputation. That somebody... You have cases of journalists in your book. I mean, some of them, like John Allaire, were really liars and they made up things.
Yeah.
But some journalists, just because of small things, they can be shamed and lose their reputations for no reason, right? Yeah. It's unpredictable. And I'm really scared of that, and I'm very careful what I put online. And sometimes I'm like deleting stuff that I have tweeted because this is going to be... And I have been stung by some comments, many comments, on me online that really hurt, So I have to confess that I have very low self-esteem in that sense. I let myself be shamed. So it's something that... Shame is a very intimate feeling. I can't shame you if you don't take part in the shaming, right?
Yeah.
If you don't feel shame, shaming doesn't work. Right?
So once again, it's the sensitive people. It's the people who are the ones who come out worse.
Shameless people won't be shamed.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting hearing you say all of that. One thing that happened with this book, which hasn't really happened with any of my other books, it happened a little bit, but not a huge amount, is that I noticed a lot of really successful people read the book and then commented on it in a positive way. I've never said this before, so let me sort of try and say this. So just today I read an article where Reese Witherspoon and Judd Apatow and Jesse Eisenberg were all talking about how my book scared the hell out of them. And it made me realise that, social justice is a really good thing. The levelling of the playing field is a really good thing. It's very positive. A great thing about social media is how it gives rise to social justice, to campaigns like Black Lives Matter. But when you have the levelling of the playing field, what happens is that really successful rich people get terrified, even if they haven't done anything wrong.
The more successful they are, the bigger the target.
Yeah, exactly.
Very easy to hit.
So one thing that my book does, I think, in an interesting way, is document the fear of the rich and successful and powerful people. And in some ways, that's good. You know, it's good that people who don't have a voice can now frighten people who have too big a voice. But in another way, it's not good at all, because perfectly nice, ethical, moral people who have done well in life are terrified and can be brought low by the tiniest transgression. So there's a lot of collateral damage, I think, to social justice, which doesn't mean social justice isn't good. Social justice is good, but there's a lot of innocent people being destroyed along the way.
But going back to feeling ashamed, like I do, psychopaths don't feel ashamed.
Nope.
They have absolutely no shame.
Yeah.
Right? We have a word for that, sem vergonha, no shame, shameless. But people who have shame, who feel ashamed, they can get over being shamed anyway, right?
Yeah.
And you have cases in your book, like Governor McGreevey, right? The New Jersey governor who was outed as a gay man, but who came out, and now he's doing a lot of compassionate work. He's a great guy. He comes out as one of the greatest persons in your book.
Yeah, he's a
so
great
tell me about how people do that, how they get over the shame.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this, and actually something that's been happening to me this year, which has never happened before, is that shamed people have been emailing me to say, I've just been shamed, what should I do? And I probably shouldn't give any names, but it's happened a number of times. And so I have picked up a few little tips, I think. I think the first thing is that our shameworthiness lies in the space between who we are and how we present ourselves to the world. So who we really are and how we present ourselves to the world. If that space is very narrow, then it's hard to be shamed, because you're just, you're just out there. All your flaws are out there. Like, I'm happy to present myself as a flawed, sometimes idiotic, ridiculous person in my books. Like, I don't pretend to be a kind of buttoned down.
You don't take yourself too seriously.
Exactly, which makes me harder to shame. Whereas if you're a sort of serious academic preppy journalist like Jonah Lehrer, who's caught transgressing and lies about it, which is what he did, he's very easy to shame. Because the space between who he really was, which was this kind of insecure, person, ambitious, flawed person, and how he presented himself to the world as this kind of buttoned-down, preppy person, was huge. So that's one thing. So don't lie. Like, if you're caught making a mistake, admit it straight away. Own it. Admit it. That's one really important thing. But and then it's probably a good idea to go silent. Just get the hell off the internet for a couple of years. But the people I'm more interested in, actually, are people like Justine Sacco, who I don't think really did anything wrong. It was a stupid joke, but it's not a big deal. But what Justine did was apologise. She kind of, she did one statement. She massively apologised for offending people, and then she went silent. And then I came along and convinced her to talk to me, and thank God she agreed. But actually, I don't think Justine should have done that, honestly. I think Justine knew that her joke was a kind of liberal joke mocking privilege. She knew she wasn't being racist. In a weird way, I think Justine should have bloody rolled up her sleeves and fought back. I really do. Amy Schumer, the comedian, had a bit of a shaming because she was accused of stealing people's jokes. And she rolled up her sleeves and she fought back. She went on the radio, she said, I'm not a joke stealer, this is just a coincidence, I'm going to take a polygraph, And actually, I think she did the right thing. Because otherwise, you're being bullied.
That's what McGreevey did too, right?
Yeah, McGreevey, it was more than just being outed as gay. He'd employed his lover in this top position as like the New Jersey, it's a big position, which he definitely shouldn't have done. So McGreevey immediately admitted it, resigned, went into rehab, and then came back out again, and now does this amazing work with prisoners just over there in New Jersey, just across the water, where it's all about de-shaming. Many acts, criminal acts and violent acts happen because the criminal is ashamed, is deeply ashamed, humiliated as a child. And really good people like McGreevy think the way to eliminate crime is to give people their self-respect back, is to de-shame. And so that's what McGreevy's doing over there. He's de-shaming prisoners. Whereas those of us on social media, what are we doing? We're just shaming everybody.
Agora eu vou pedir para o Jon falar direto com vocês. Now you're going to look at the camera and tell our viewers, what are your suggestions for behaving in social media?
Don't be cold and judgmental and just instantly assume because of some bad wording in some tweet that you know every aspect of that person's life. Don't be cold and judgmental, be curious, and wherever possible be empathetic. And if you see an unfair shaming happening, say something, speak up on behalf of the shamed person, because a dialogue is democracy. What isn't democracy is a million people screaming at one person. So compassion and empathy and curiosity instead of instant cold judgment.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Very good, thank you.
The great thing about social media was how it gave a voice to voiceless people, but we're now creating a surveillance society where the smartest way to survive is to go back to being voiceless. Let's not do that. Thank you.